The spiritual successor has been a very popular form of indie game for quite some time now, taking an established, sometimes forgotten formula and bringing it back in an exciting new way. There's been a lot throughout the years, but one that really caught my attention from its announcement was Arzette, the Jewel of Faramore. For those familiar with the Philips CDI, especially the Zelda games from that console, it may seem like making a spiritual successor to those games is a strange idea. Sure, they're responsible for many laughs and goofs on the internet, but aren't the games themselves hated? Can there really be something made out of these beyond the
dinner,
beyond the, all that? From the outside looking in, this kind of project seems like a tricky balancing act. Personally, I love the idea of trying to do right by a once scorned game. Or I guess twice scorned? Or thrice scorned. There were 3 of these. Whatever, I'm getting off topic. My point is, I like the idea of giving a game that's seen as bad a second shake with its formula. And I also grew up on YouTube poops and minimal internet supervision, so yeah, I was always gonna be interested. But under the wrong direction, this could have been a disaster. It could have been nothing more than a cheap laugh or a project that was faithful in all the wrong ways. Luckily, that is not the case. Arzette the Jewel of Faramore is a passion project that truly shines because its director, and by proxy the team, has a lot of love for those clunky old CDI games. And mostly unironic love at that. The director, Seth Fulkerson, also known as Doppely, said this in an interview with Nintendo Life. I actually find a lot of genuine potential in those original games that some people think are bad. I never set out to make a bad game when I was working on Arzette. I knew I could get those genuine bits of potential from those original games and sort of make them into something that's much better. And with a vision like that, Arzette was able to win my heart super easily. What could have been a messy little shitpost wound up being something more. It's not just a passionate love letter to a couple of infamous games, but it is also an excellent, sincere, and just plain fun game to boot. One that stands on its own 2 feet and creates something that I firmly believe will stand the test of time. The love poured into Arzette is immediately apparent from the presentation of the whole thing. The visual style really pops in a lot of different ways. The sprite work and backgrounds in the overworld are genuinely fantastic. They animate nice and have a lot of artistic flair to boot. Like yeah, these are definitely some 90s ass character designs, but they are also so definitively Arzette, you know? Like no other game has designs like this, and I think that's rad. Plus the character sprites here actually stand out against the background, in contrast to the CDI games where they would often blend together. This definition really helps with the presentation, because not only did I really get to soak in those gorgeous backgrounds, I also didn't have nearly as much of a problem figuring out what's a platform and what's background. These backdrops are painted by veteran artist Rob Dunleavy, who also worked on Faces of Evil and Wand of Gamelon. And let me just say, the man has not missed a beat here. The backgrounds are stunning, with striking colors and gorgeous composition. Combine those with the sprite work and it breathes so much life into the world of Arzette. But sprite work and backgrounds aren't the only visual expression here. It wouldn't be complete without those hand-drawn cutscenes. The cutscenes of the CDI games were victims of unfortunate circumstances. Heavy time crunch on their productions, and the compression to fit on a 90s CD-ROM really compromised the vision these games had. Arzette really hones in on the craft set by those games though. Having about 30 years of hindsight helps, of course. With that knowledge, the game is able to intentionally go for that compressed look. So while it still has that almost MS Paint aesthetic to the line art in the final product, the scenes here are able to communicate better. And there's a lot more freedom and expression that really turns up the charm dials. In another interview with Games Radar, Fulkerson said that it was really important to let the animators have creative freedom. There was a focus to make the cutscenes feel artist-driven, and I think that really works to their benefit. Because of this approach, it's actually really easy to tell one artist's style from the other in these cutscenes. In fact, many of the artists that worked on the game have even uploaded their process for working on the cutscenes. I think that's super cool. Not only do you get to see a little bit of the behind the scenes of how they were made, but you also get to see a lot more of that raw art style that they have, and I don't know, I just find behind the scenes stuff like that super cool. I wish it was just more readily available so I could just look at it all with my big old eyes. It makes the game look maybe a little inconsistent from the outset, giving it that CDI vibe. but in reality, it allows for the maximum amount of artistic expression, which is honestly genius. But speaking of artistic expression, the sound design in Arzette also has a lot of that. The kind that has a unique identity from its roots. Sure, there are some sound effects borrowed from the banks of the classics. It was great to hear the dinner bell from Wand of Gamelon as a recurring sound in the cutscenes.
My ship sails in the morning.
But there's also a lot of new, satisfying sound design that feels appropriate for the game. It's nice and punchy, but never overbearing. And it never steps on the toes of the wonderful soundtrack either, which is scored by Jake Buttonmaster Silverman. And man, what a soundtrack this is. I don't really have immense nostalgia for 90s games, nor much of a musical ear, but I feel like Buttonmaster's work here has masterfully captured the sound of a 90s adventure game. Those peppy, bombastic, adventurous melodies are full of energy, and got stuck in my head quite a lot as I revisited certain places. Plus, who could deny that synthy sound? But the tracks that really won me over, surprisingly, were the more mellow ones. Faramore Town, Raiha River, Lichen Hills, they're such soothing, wonderful tracks that just put me at ease. They sort of remind me of edutainment point-and-click games, which I guess the CDI games were basically distant cousins of, so that makes sense as a logical progression. Alongside the music and sound effects though, the voice work is also super solid across the board. The cast is chock full of returning veterans and new actors alike. Even some YouTuber cameos such as MVG and Vinny Vinesauce hop in for some fun. Sometimes the mic quality can get a little funky, but I feel like that adds to the charm. The first time I heard the reverb on this Ratman's voice, I almost died laughing.
You know, an adventurer has got to explore all curiosities.
So I think the inconsistency is more of a blessing than anything. Going back to that returning veterans part though, I was especially surprised to learn that Jeffrey Rath and Bonnie Jean Wilbur, the voices for CDI, Link, and Zelda respectively, had parts in this game. There's roles where they lean into the voices from those old games, but also ones where they get to flex their vocal muscles. I would have never guessed that Jeffrey Rath voiced Skelfus, the Funky Bone Man.
I'm grateful for you sucking it to those unruly ghosts.
Great!
It's such a blessing that we got who we have here. I cannot stress that enough. Though that's enough about the presentation, right? It's a wonderful homage to the classics while still doing its own thing. We understand that. But this game is more than a mere tribute to the cutscenes that became an early YouTube phenomenon. It's also a damn good video game. How about you talk about that part, Perry? Alright, I'm getting there! While on the surface, Arzette looks like as much of a 2D side-scrolling adventure as its ancestors, if you look a little deeper, you'll see that it's really transformed the formula. It has a much more explorative feeling to it, almost like a Metroidvania at this point. Couple that with a faster movement, quicker menu, and an arsenal of weapons at your disposal, and it just feels great to play. As Dopley states, Arzette's philosophy revolves around core pillars, rudimentary simple search action with a combat action loop, and take that all the way to its logical conclusions. They wanted to take the foundation of those CDI games and make it the best they could be. And the results of this approach are seen throughout the adventure. Players will find themselves constantly revisiting levels to clean up and help the people of Faramore via side quests, and due to the non-linear progression of the game and the short stage length overall, these revisits never feel like they overstay their welcome. There's always a new power to find, or a new route to take, or new challenges to partake in, as long as you're thorough. And the little bonus stages strewn throughout the world are great fun too. Sometimes they're just grab as much money as you can, which hey, I appreciate. I want to give my good friend Mortar as much of my business as I can. Lest he, threaten me.
You'll pay one way or the other.
Have mercy!
But some reference Smash Bros. Minigames or even Hotel Mario. There's the rep I was waiting for. When there's smoke, am I right? Oh yeah, they literally reference that line in the game, huh?
Where there's smoke, they pitch back.
Hell, there's even some sequence breaks. Really helping my case on that Metroidvania comparison. Getting the double jump early in the swamp is vindicating. It opens so many avenues in the game, it's nuts. Just make sure you get the sword wave sequence break first, otherwise you're just gonna be blockaded here. But yeah, the game is very good at taking the core pillars of the classic CDI games and transforming them into something that's basically brand new. It just feels so good to play, and that is like staggering considering the source material. That being said, there are some caveats. This game is definitely on the easier side, especially if you get all the items. If you're looking for more of a challenge, you're not gonna find that on your first playthrough. And on that note, I do just kind of find all the boss battles a little lacking. They try their best, and they're definitely a step above Faces of Evil and Wand of Gamelon's, but they all end in a snap if you know what to do or you have the right tools. Especially if you get the Reflect Shield upgrade in the second half of the game, Beeves and the Delki are a joke with this on. But hey, I'd rather a boss that's too easy than a boss that's so difficult it's not fun anymore. And it's not like there aren't harder difficulties. There's plenty of options once you clear the game normally, and hey, those definitely satiate the challenge-hungry freak in my heart. There's even a classic mode that brings back some of that CDI jank. From having to duck to open the menu, to having limited tries before being booted back to the map. Okay, maybe that's a little too much challenge for me. Or at least that's what I would say if I didn't get all the achievements. Despite my minor problems, I do really appreciate the love that went not just into the artistry of this game, but the gameplay itself too. Like, I cannot deny, I have fun with this game. I love it. I beat it 5 separate times in a week. I've almost gotten my playthroughs down to under an hour. This is a surprisingly good speedrun game, by the way.
I love speed.
But yeah, if you're looking for a game that's not just funny, but like has some depth to it, Arzette might hit the spot for you.
It's time I finish this. For good.
All these parts individually would make for a pretty good project. But what makes Arzette the Jewel of Faramore really sing is its shining heart and soul. As the quote back in the intro said, the team behind Arzette was really looking to unearth the potential of those original games. And the most important part of what makes that work is the sincerity that this project was approached with. It's not just the big strokes of the original work that were recognized here. The crew didn't just go for the easy targets. There's an undeniable attention to detail here, from the opening font to the awkward pauses at the end of cutscenes. Only the most diehard of fans would incorporate those, I think. But even beyond that, the tone of this game is just pleasant. It's happy to exist. It never talks down or makes fun of itself. Aside from the villains, there's not a single cynical bone in this game's body. It's a strange world, but as Doppely says, nobody draws attention to that because that would go against the sincerity of the project. One of our goals was that Arzette is a confident, sure-of-herself character in this world, but nobody here knows it's strange. Nobody looks at the camera to say, "Isn't this strange? I wonder what's for dinner." That should never happen. From their perspective, there's nothing wrong. They're all just living their lives. There are cheeky nods to what came before. The game would feel incomplete without Dimer, the game's Ganon stand-in, getting up close to the camera and yelling, "Die!" But it never makes a reference in a demeaning way. Plus, even aside from the references, this game is just charming. I laughed a bit at some of these jokes and was delighted by some character interactions. I think the tone of the game can more or less be told by this one cutscene.
May I?
Of course.
It's beautiful.
A vast universe, but our world is a speck.
Puts it all into perspective, huh?
Your interest has made my day. As a gift, take some cosmic jewelry, courtesy of the stars.
They're almost as bright as you, Odie.
Ah.
It's silly, but super sweet. It's not ironic, it's not trying to do anything deeper than it needs to. It tackles its cheesy little story with a surprising amount of earnestness and heart. And to be honest, that not only makes the game for me, but it is seriously refreshing. In an age where that kind of writing feels like a dying art, a healthy dose of just committing to the bit and being genuinely sweet goes a long way. Arzette has gone and transcended the meme. In the process of being this simple, cute love letter, it went and became more than that. It's a work of art that stands on its own, shouting from the mountaintops that it is proud of being itself. And that is what makes it a passion project that all true warriors strive for. I'm sorry. Anyway, yeah, the game is good. Check it out if you think it would interest you, and sorry it took almost 6 months to get a video out. I promise from here on out, I'll try and be better about communicating. Here's a YouTube poop I made. See you around.
It's good to be high.
Would you mind stepping it?
Now, my considerable height require fine dining. May I make breakfast? You know, eggs, pancakes, pancakes, pan eggs, pan... That jerk has taken my special pen. The nerve. My considerable height is satiated. I'm off. I must clean my pen.
Mark and higher.
Who's coming?